Throughout history, humanity has sought to tap into forces beyond our understanding, often through rituals. But what happens when these ancient practices go awry? When the veil between worlds tears and the consequences are horrifyingly real? Tonight, we delve into 3 chilling accounts of rituals that spiraled out of control, leaving behind a trail of terror and unanswered questions. These are not mere superstitions. They are true stories of forbidden knowledge, dark intentions, and the terrifying price paid when the sacred becomes profane. Story 1. The Midnight Game. Our first chilling account plunges us into the heart of a ritual known as the Midnight Game, a supposedly ancient pagan ritual used to punish those who broke the laws of the religion. While its origins are shrouded in mystery and debate, its modern interpretation has become a popular and terrifying internet phenomenon. Our story begins on a Halloween night when a group of 3 friends, Jamie, Max, and the unnamed narrator, decided to tempt fate by performing this very ritual, which they had found detailed online. The instructions were precise and unsettling. At precisely 12 a.m., each participant had to light a candle, write their full name on a piece of paper, and place it in front of a wooden door. Then they were to knock on the door 22 times, with the final knock occurring exactly at midnight. After opening the door, blowing out their candles, and closing the door, they would have successfully invited the Midnight Man into their house. The goal was to avoid him until 3:33 a.m., keeping their candles lit and staying in motion. If their candle went out, they had to relight it within 10 seconds. If they failed, they were to surround themselves with a salt circle for protection. The friends, initially fueled by a mix of excitement and nervous laughter, followed the steps meticulously. The house plunged into darkness as they blew out their candles, the air growing heavy with an unseen presence. The game had begun. For a while, the tension was palpable but manageable. They moved from room to room, their flickering candles casting dancing shadows, their whispers barely breaking the oppressive silence. Then, the first terrifying sign. Jamie's candle, without any discernible draft, suddenly extinguished. A gasp, a fumbling for the lighter, and a frantic attempt to relight it. The lighter, however, refused to cooperate, sparking feebly but failing to ignite the wick. Panic began to set in. Jamie, remembering the rules, frantically tried to create a salt circle around himself, but before he could complete it, a chilling whisper echoed from the darkness, a voice that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then, a blood-curdling scream tore through the house. The narrator, frozen in terror, heard a sickening crack followed by an unnatural silence. When he dared to look, Jamie was on the floor, his neck twisted at an impossible angle, his eyes wide and vacant. The Midnight Man had claimed his first victim. Max, the most skeptical of the group, had scoffed at the warnings, believing it all to be a harmless prank. When Jamie's candle went out, Max, convinced it was a trick, decided to go looking for the Midnight Man, determined to expose the charade. He vanished into the darkness, his confident strides quickly replaced by an eerie silence. The narrator, now alone and utterly terrified, scrambled to complete a salt circle around himself, the only remaining defense against the unseen horror that stalked the house. Time stretched, each second an eternity. The narrator huddled within the fragile protection of the salt, listening to the chilling sounds of the house. Faint whispers, the creak of floorboards, the distant sound of something dragging. Then the air grew cold, a palpable drop in temperature that signaled the Midnight Man's proximity. A shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, materialized at the edge of his salt circle. It was tall, gaunt, and its eyes glowed with a malevolent red light. The narrator squeezed his eyes shut, praying for the dawn. When the first rays of sunlight pierced through the windows at 3:33 a.m., the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The Midnight Man was gone. The narrator, trembling, slowly emerged from his salt circle. Jamie's body remained, a gruesome testament to the ritual's deadly consequences. But Max was nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but Max's body was never recovered. The only clue to his fate was a single, horrifying discovery made weeks later in the attic. A small, blood-stained piece of paper with Max's name on it, and next to it, 2 gouged-out eyeballs. The midnight game had not only claimed a life, but had also dragged another into an unknown, terrifying abyss, a chilling reminder that some games are not meant to be played, and some rituals, once begun, cannot be undone. Story 2. The Hooded Man. Our second terrifying tale of a ritual gone horribly wrong comes from the chilling confession of a man incarcerated for a heinous crime. A man who claims his actions were not his own, but the horrifying consequence of a forbidden game. The Hooded Man. This ritual, like many others, was discovered online, promising a journey to another dimension, a glimpse beyond the veil of our reality. The instructions were deceptively simple, yet fraught with peril, demanding absolute adherence to its arcane rules. The ritual began by summoning a demonic entity into a taxi. The participant was to call a taxi at precisely 3:30 a.m., ensuring they were the only passenger. Once inside, they were to place a specific object on the passenger seat and then, with eyes closed, recite an incantation. The taxi would then begin its journey, driving through an altered landscape, a distorted reflection of their own city, signaling their entry into the other dimension. The most crucial rule, the one emphasized above all others, was never, under any circumstances, to open their eyes or look directly at the hooded man, the entity driving the taxi. The man, driven by a morbid curiosity and a desire to escape his mundane existence, performed the ritual. He called the taxi, placed the object, and recited the words, his heart pounding in his chest. The taxi arrived, and he climbed in, the air immediately growing heavy and cold. He kept his eyes tightly shut, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the journey. The distorted hum of the engine, the strange guttural whispers that seemed to emanate from the driver's seat, the unsettling silence of a city that was both familiar and utterly alien. He felt the taxi swerve, accelerate, and then slow, the journey feeling far longer than it should have been. Then, a moment of fatal curiosity, a single catastrophic lapse in judgment. Despite the explicit warnings, a primal urge to see, to understand, overwhelmed him. He opened his eyes just for a fleeting second and glanced at the driver. What he saw would forever haunt his nightmares and condemn him to a life of unimaginable horror. The hooded man was not human. Its face was a grotesque mask of disfigurement, a twisted parody of humanity, its eyes burning with an ancient, malevolent fire. The sight was so utterly repulsive, so profoundly wrong, that it seared itself into his mind. In that instant, the ritual shattered. The taxi screeched to a halt, the otherworldly sounds abruptly ceased, and the man found himself back in his own reality, the familiar streets of his city surrounding him. But he was not the same. The glimpse of the hooded man had broken something within him, a fundamental shift in his psyche. He felt a cold, alien presence take root in his mind, a whisper that urged him to commit unspeakable acts. The man, once an ordinary individual, became a puppet to this malevolent influence. What followed was a descent into madness and unspeakable violence. Driven by the entity that now possessed him, he returned home and brutally murdered his entire family. The details of the crime were horrific, a senseless act of savagery that shocked the community. He was apprehended, tried, and convicted, his pleas of demonic possession dismissed as the ramblings of a madman. He now resides in prison, a shell of his former self, forever tormented by the memory of the hooded man's face and the unspeakable acts he committed under its influence. His story serves as a chilling testament to the dangers of dabbling in the occult, of seeking power or escape through forbidden rituals. It is a stark warning that some doors, once opened, cannot be easily closed, and some entities, once summoned, cannot be easily banished. The hooded man ritual, seemingly a harmless game, became a gateway to a personal hell, a horrifying reminder that the pursuit of otherworldly experiences can come at an unimaginable cost, leaving behind not just shattered lives, but souls, forever tainted by the darkness they invited in. Story 3. The Haunted Dorm Room Ritual. Our final chilling account takes us to the seemingly innocent setting of a college dorm room, a place typically associated with late-night study sessions, youthful exuberance, and harmless pranks. However, for 4 college students, their attempt to summon a spirit through a ritual in a supposedly haunted room turned their academic haven into a terrifying trap, a stark reminder that some games are best left unplayed. The dorm room had a reputation, whispers of strange occurrences, unexplained noises, and a pervasive chill had circulated among students for years. Intrigued by the local legends, 4 friends decided to conduct a ritual they had researched online, hoping to make contact with the spectral resident. The ritual was simple. They would stand in the 4 corners of the darkened room, and one by one, when prompted by a prearranged signal, each student would move to the next corner, clockwise. The idea was to create a circuit, a pathway for the spirit to manifest. As the clock ticked past midnight, the students took their positions, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. The room was plunged into darkness, save for the faint glow of a single candle placed in the center. The air grew heavy, and a palpable sense of unease settled over them. The first student moved, then the second, then the third, each step echoing loudly in the silence. When it was the 4th student's turn, they moved to the corner vacated by the first. The ritual seemed to be progressing as planned. However, as they continued the cycle, a horrifying realization dawned upon them. There were now 5 figures in the room. A 5th presence, a ghostly girl, had joined their macabre game, standing silently in what should have been an empty corner. Her form was translucent, her eyes hollow, and a chilling aura emanated from her. The students, their blood turning to ice, exchanged terrified glances. The ritual had worked, but not in the way they had intended. They had invited something in, and it was now a part of their terrifying circle. Panic erupted. The students, abandoning the ritual and all pretense of bravery, scrambled for the door, their screams echoing through the silent dorm. They burst out into the hallway, gasping for breath, their minds reeling from the impossible sight they had just witnessed. They fled the dorm, seeking refuge and solace in the safety of their friends' rooms, recounting their horrifying experience to disbelieving ears. But the horror did not end there. Because they had abandoned the ritual without properly concluding it, the ghostly girl remained tethered to them. She began to haunt them, not just in the dorm room, but wherever they went. They experienced cold spots, fleeting shadows, and the distinct feeling of being watched. Objects would move on their own, whispers would echo in empty rooms, and nightmares plagued their sleep. The once skeptical friends were now living a waking nightmare, forever bound to the entity they had so carelessly summoned. This story serves as a chilling cautionary tale about the dangers of dabbling in the occult without proper knowledge or respect. The students, driven by curiosity, opened a door they couldn't close, inviting a malevolent presence into their lives. It highlights the terrifying consequences of rituals gone wrong, where the pursuit of a thrill can lead to a lifetime of torment. The haunted dorm room ritual is a stark reminder that some things are best left undisturbed, and that the unseen world can be far more real and far more terrifying than we could ever imagine. Beyond the immediate terror, the narrator's experience with the midnight game left an indelible scar, a chilling testament to the ritual's devastating power. The initial excitement and nervous laughter quickly dissolved into a primal fear as the rules of the game began to manifest in horrifying ways. Jamie's candle extinguishing without a draft, and the lighter failing to ignite, were not mere coincidences. They were deliberate acts by an unseen force, a clear signal that the Midnight Man was not a figment of their imagination, but a very real, very malevolent entity. The chilling whisper that preceded Jamie's demise, a voice that seemed to defy spatial location, was a psychological assault designed to disorient and terrify. The sickening crack that followed, the sound of a life brutally extinguished, was a stark and immediate consequence of their transgression. The narrator's desperate scramble to create a salt circle, a fragile barrier against an overwhelming darkness, highlights the sheer terror and desperation that gripped him in that moment. It was a last-ditch effort to cling to some semblance of safety in a world that had suddenly become utterly hostile. Max's fate, however, was perhaps the most disturbing. His skepticism, his belief that it was all a harmless prank, led him directly into the clutches of the Midnight Man. The fact that his body was never found, only the gruesome discovery of his gouged-out eyeballs, speaks to a horror far beyond mere death. It suggests a prolonged torment, a ritualistic mutilation, and a complete erasure from existence. The Midnight Man didn't just kill Max. It consumed him, leaving behind only a macabre calling card. The enduring horror of the Midnight Game lies in its ability to turn a seemingly innocent act of curiosity into a gateway for unimaginable terror. It preys on the human desire to explore the unknown, to flirt with the forbidden, and then punishes that curiosity with brutal efficiency. The ritual's rules, though seemingly arbitrary, are designed to create an atmosphere of escalating dread, forcing participants to confront their deepest fears. The constant need to keep moving, the fear of the candle extinguishing, the desperate search for salt, all contribute to a sense of claustrophobia and impending doom. This story serves as a chilling reminder that some games are not meant to be played, and some rituals, once invoked, unleash forces that are beyond human comprehension or control. The Midnight Game is not just a cautionary tale. It is a terrifying glimpse into a realm where ancient malevolence lurks, waiting for an invitation, and where the price of curiosity can be paid with sanity, life, and even the very essence of one's being. The image of Max's gouged-out eyes, a silent testament to his horrific end, lingers long after the story concludes, a stark warning against the allure of forbidden knowledge and the terrifying consequences of rituals gone wrong. The Hooded Man ritual, as described by the incarcerated man, is a chilling example of how a seemingly simple set of instructions can unleash profound and irreversible horror. The initial act of summoning, the precise timing of 3:30 a.m., and the placement of the object in the taxi all contribute to a sense of deliberate engagement with the supernatural. The journey itself, through an altered landscape, speaks to a distortion of reality, a blurring of the lines between the mundane and the otherworldly. This gradual immersion into the ritual's reality is a key element of its terror, slowly drawing the participant into a world where the rules of physics and sanity no longer apply. The most critical rule, the prohibition against opening one's eyes or looking at the hooded man, is a classic horror trope that plays on our innate curiosity and fear of the unknown. The man's fatal lapse in judgment, his fleeting glimpse of the entity's disfigured face, is the turning point, the moment where the ritual irrevocably goes wrong. The description of the hooded man's face, a grotesque mask of disfigurement, a twisted parody of humanity, with eyes burning with an ancient malevolent fire, is designed to evoke primal revulsion and terror. It's not just a monster, it's a perversion of the human form, suggesting a profound evil that transcends mere physical ugliness. The immediate consequence of breaking the rule, the abrupt return to his own reality, is almost as terrifying as the glimpse itself. It signifies that the ritual's protective bubble has burst, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. The cold, alien presence that takes root in his mind is the true horror, a parasitic entity that slowly but surely erodes his free will and compels him to commit unspeakable acts. This internal possession is a deeply personal and psychological form of horror, where the victim becomes both perpetrator and prisoner, trapped within their own mind as an unwilling instrument of evil. His subsequent actions, the brutal murder of his entire family, are the horrifying culmination of the ritual gone wrong. The senseless savagery of the crime, juxtaposed with his pleas of demonic possession, highlights the tragic irony of his situation. He sought to escape his mundane life, to experience something extraordinary, and in doing so, he became a monster, forever branded as a madman by a society that cannot comprehend the true forces at play. The prison, in this context, is not just a physical confinement, but a metaphorical one, a perpetual torment where he is forced to relive the consequences of his fatal curiosity. This story serves as a stark and visceral warning against the allure of forbidden knowledge and the dangers of tampering with forces beyond human comprehension. The Hooded Man ritual is not just a game, it is a pact with darkness, a gateway to a realm where malevolent entities lie in wait, eager to exploit human weakness and curiosity. The man's confession, delivered from the confines of his cell, is a chilling testament to the fact that some rituals, once initiated, cannot be undone, and that the price of a single glimpse into the abyss can be paid with one's sanity, one's freedom, and the lives of those dearest to them. It is a story that whispers of the true cost of playing with the occult, a horrifying reminder that some doors are best left unopened. The haunted dorm room ritual, a seemingly innocuous college prank, quickly devolved into a terrifying ordeal for the 4 students involved. Their initial curiosity, fueled by local legends and the thrill of the forbidden, blinded them to the very real dangers of dabbling in the occult. The simplicity of the ritual, standing in corners, moving clockwise, made it all the more insidious, lulling them into a false sense of security before unleashing its true horror. The atmosphere in the darkened room, with only the flickering candle as their guide, was meticulously crafted to heighten their senses and prepare them for the reveal. The heavy air, the palpable sense of unease, were not just psychological effects. They were the subtle signs of a presence gathering, a veil thinning. The moment of realization when they counted 5 figures instead of 4 was a punch to the gut, a sudden, horrifying confirmation that their game had become terrifyingly real. The description of the ghostly girl, translucent, hollow eyes, a chilling aura, is designed to evoke a primal fear of the spectral, a being that exists outside the natural order. The students' panicked flight, their screams echoing through the silent dorm, was a natural reaction to such an impossible sight. However, their failure to properly conclude the ritual was their gravest mistake, a fatal oversight that condemned them to a prolonged torment. The concept of a spirit being tethered to them, haunting them wherever they went, is a particularly insidious form of horror. It's not a one-time scare, it's a constant, inescapable presence, a shadow that follows them, whispering in their ears and subtly manipulating their environment. The manifestations of the haunting, cold spots, fleeting shadows, moving objects, and echoing whispers, are classic elements of a poltergeist-like haunting, but their persistence and personal nature make them deeply unsettling. The nightmares that plagued their sleep were a constant reminder of their transgression, a psychological torment that bled into their waking lives. The transformation of their once skeptical friends into believers, forced to witness the undeniable evidence of the haunting, further amplified the horror, validating their experience while simultaneously trapping them in a shared nightmare. This story serves as a potent cautionary tale against the casual exploration of the supernatural. It highlights the profound consequences of disrespecting ancient practices and the very real dangers of inviting entities from other realms into our own. The haunted dorm room ritual is not just a story about a ghost. It's a story about the irreversible consequences of human hubris, a chilling reminder that some doors, once opened, cannot be easily closed, and that the unseen world can exact a terrifying price for those who dare to trespass upon its sacred boundaries. The student's ongoing torment is a stark testament to the fact that some games are not meant to be played, and some rituals, once gone wrong, can haunt you for a lifetime.